I think that is such a travesty that low testosterone is such a prevalent issue. It's a literal epidemic. Toxic masculinity, a side effect of low testosterone, which makes them highly reactive. It's pumping a bunch of cortisol in. It's getting our prolactin levels up, which makes us even more moody. The antidote, testosterone replacement therapy. Testosterone replacement therapy increases lean muscle mass and improves brain fog. Driving energy at a cellular level, we have to stop putting testosterone replacement therapy in this weird box only for men over the age of 45 and up. It's totally crazy. Anybody who needs hormone replacement therapy should have hormone replacement therapy. Hey guys, welcome back to the Nico Misleh Podcast. It's me, Nico, and today I am going to talk all about guys and testosterone. So I already did an episode about why we should be giving women testosterone replacement therapy, which I think is a great idea. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. It's awesome. I just recorded it a few weeks ago. But I want to talk about men and testosterone replacement therapy and why specifically you as a provider should be providing that to men. And obviously, I think this is probably more obvious than women, right? I think there was this whole stereotype of what types of women look for testosterone replacement therapy and do women really even need testosterone? And obviously, of course, as medical providers, if you're an HRT specialist, you should know, of course they do. But the same, there's a lot of double standards here. And I mean, the same sorts of stereotypes, just in different lenses, are true for men as well, male patients in particular. So why, as a provider, should you be obsessive about testosterone replacement therapy in men? And of course, providing all hormones for men, but let's just focus on testosterone for a moment. So as a provider, I think oftentimes what gets tossed around is this idea, of course, of the classic male stereotype, male seeking testosterone replacement therapy. Some meathead, some gym bro, some dude who just wants to get jacked and tan, some guy who probably doesn't really care about his health and just wants to focus more on the aesthetics and the appeal of feeling strong and masculine and all that sorts of stuff, right? Like as if they're drug seekers. And by the way, just to clarify, those people exist. They do. They truly do. I actually think that the number of those types of people are the minority. A super, super small amount of those guys, truly. Most of those guys are frankly not coming to you as a medical provider seeking testosterone replacement therapy. They are going to their gym buddies at Planet Fitness and, sneaking, illegal substances out of gym bags with dirty needles and blah, 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 right? The classic stereotype. These guys are getting testosterone from underground labs, which are just, bathtub pharmacies where people are mixing all kinds of crazy stuff and putting it in their bodies. That is not the kinds of patients, the types of men seeking testosterone replacement therapy. It's just not. It's not at all. Most of the guys who are going to be coming to you are desperate. I say this in my HRT University master course when I'm talking about men, and I think it's really apt. Don't mistake what looks like a male patient pursuing vanity as a cry for help. Okay. So first and foremost, I want to hit on something. It is very important as a male. I will speak for all of us guys out there, and I think I'm right. It is very important for men to feel like a man. What does that mean? To be strong, not just to be strong, to look strong too, right? So that there's both a function and an aesthetic to that. And I think both are really important, by the way. To feel powerful, to feel like a protector, to feel motivated and driven, to do the right things, to be the hero, to save your family or friends from disaster, to step in when it's most necessary. Like that's what I love about men. I think men are amazing, and I feel that way all the time. I want to feel that way. When men don't feel that way, let me describe to you what is basically a toxic man. They are irritable, highly emotional, and labile in their moods. They're all over the place. They are very reactive because their confidence is so terrible that, God forbid, if someone steps on their, ego, they just crumble and freak out. They feel emasculated, even though they might just be taking something out of complete turn. They feel like it's very personal. They feel weak. They're intimidated by oftentimes other men and especially women. And those types of guys are miserable to be around. They're miserable in relationships. They're miserable in a family environment. They're miserable in a friend environment. And by the way, these men could be big, strong, right? Like they could be that meathead or gym bro. They really could. Because a lot of these poor guys are seeking something to bring back what it is to them to feel and behave and act like a man. And we see the same thing in women, by the way. And by the way, I don't think this is wrong at all. Like I used to have a lot of opinions and thoughts about medical aesthetics. I didn't understand it. I really didn't get it. I was like, how is this medicine? It doesn't really make any sense. And okay, we could argue back and forth how much of this is actually medicine and how much of it is, really more like a salon type of thing, but it doesn't matter. Here's what you need to know. There's a reason I get my hair cut every few weeks. I mean, I like the way I look when I get a fresh haircut. It makes me feel really good. Is it functional? I mean, not really. Like, could I rock a ponytail? Probably not, but I would if I had to. Like, but it's not like having long hair gets in the way of my life. I mean, I spend money on these haircuts, right? My wife doesn't do it. I wish she did. We should tell her. I've told her for years now, but she won't. It doesn't matter. What I'm getting at is we do a lot of things for the sake of aesthetics and looks, because at the end of the day, it changes the way we feel and largely behave. Whether it's, again, in a micro environment like our family or even a macro environment like out in public. And so, when I started really thinking about that, why do women go and get lip fillers and, tighten their foreheads with Botox or whatever, all these different things and modalities that are offered in aesthetics medicine. I understand that. I understand that for some beautiful reason, it is because they desire to feel like a woman. And that's something so deep and mysterious and yet really obvious, I think, in a lot of ways. But it's something that men can't really perceive that well. I mean, it's a little odd, but yet at the same time, we do the exact same things, right? We get our hair cut too. We might go lift weights at the gym because we don't want to just be strong. We want to be big and strong, right? I mean, you ask a skinny guy, what's his worst nightmare is I can't gain weight. Like seriously. We want to grow beards. We want to do all those things that are truly masculine, and we want to look that part. We want to dress a certain way. We do all the same things that women do, seriously, in a lot of different ways, but it is to be a man. And when you are unable literally to produce the hormones necessary to meet the requirement, because it's a foundational requirement of health and wellness, I think, to reach what is, again, that self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The pyramid of needs here. At the very base is like eat, breathe, sleep. Can you do that? Can you do that safely and effectively? The next thing is like, do I have a safe place to live? Do I have food to eat? Right? And it climbs all the way up to the very top of the pyramid, which is self-actualization, which is like, I am who I am, and I know it. I know what I am. I know what kind of purpose I have, and I'm driven to now live out that thing. And by the way, not focus on me anymore, right? When we're at the bottom of that pyramid, we're in survival. It is very, very, very self-interest and selfish, really, right? I need to live. I need to eat. I need to breathe. I need to find a safe place to live. Like when you're in those bottom layers of the pyramid, we're primordial, whatever you want to call it, reptile brain. Like we are just existing to survive. That's it. And we think about ourselves the whole time, basically. Maybe a few family members just to get out of that horribleness. But to go beyond that is to now shed some of those stressors, some of those survival things. Because when we get to self-actualization, now we're in the realm of philosophy almost. We're in this esoteric place where we can now say, you know what? I'm good. I am totally good. I know who I am deep down within my heart and soul. I have a connection with myself that is so meaningful and purposeful that I don't really have to think about myself anymore. I'm in a place where I'm safe. I'm getting food, water, blah, blah, blah. And now I want to help other people do that because that's really important, right? I need other people to win. I desperately need that. That's how this world goes around. I need them to feel safe. I need them to feel confident. I need them to reach a point of self-actualization so that they can then turn around and help other people, because I can't help everybody. And I don't have all the skills to help everybody. But if we all join in on that, the world, I think, becomes a better place. And remember, at the very foundation of that pyramid, this is why I talk about this stuff in the course, guys. You all think I'm crazy, but I hit on this stuff because of how important this is. At the foundation of that pyramid, you got to have good hormones. You do. It's a requirement for life, for development, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and frankly, spiritually. You have to have the proper hormones to drive this train. For men, if you are lacking androgens, specifically testosterone, let's just call it the king of androgens for a moment in a lot of ways, well, then how in the world are you supposed to drive this train that well? How are you supposed to ever escape those maybe bottom few layers of the pyramid? Most guys don't. And then they start self-medicating, right? Either they pursue it, but just in the wrong way, right? They start using things like anabolic steroids and so. I mean, I really mean that. I think if those guys probably had really healthy testosterone levels early on, they probably might not have gone in that direction. I'm not, again, there are bodybuilders and stuff who they want to do that for a living, but like a lot of guys are doing it because they're self-medicating. By the way, the opposite direction, and I don't think I think they're both kind of in the same position of like, this isn't good for your health. Of course, the opposite direction is, well, I'm just going to numb myself. I'll drink myself to death. I'll smoke myself to death. I'll do drugs. I'll have terrible jobs. And then I'll have very reactive relationships and a lot of turmoil and ups and downs and lefts and rights. Right. Maybe I feel so depressed that I start taking antidepressants because I don't know what's wrong with me. And maybe I'm trying to get help. And of course, my medical provider, doctor, nurse practitioner, physician says, I don't care. They tell me the same thing over and over again. I don't know what's wrong. Everything looks fine. Your blood works great. Sure, you're a little overweight. Sure, you're sad. Here's an antidepressant. And I think that is such a travesty. I think it's such a travesty because we know that low testosterone is such a prevalent issue. I mean, it's a literal epidemic. I'd venture to almost call it a pandemic because seriously, I think almost worldwide, it's that big of an issue. And I've talked about it 1,000 times. A lot of it has to do with the environment. A lot of it has to do with personal choices too. And a lot of it has to do with just what we're dealing with, right? I mean, if our mothers were pumped full of plastic byproduct chemicals, to their knowledge or not to their knowledge, well, it's going to impact the function and the development of the testes, the Leydig cells. They're not going to produce as much testosterone. So what we're left with is men who they want to be men. They want to be that vision in their head of what they know to be a man, and yet they can't. And it makes them upset, and it makes them sad, and then it makes them angry, and then it makes them toxic. Okay? Toxic masculinity is seriously, in my humble opinion, a side effect of low testosterone. And to like the nth degree, right? That's what it is. I mean, seriously, if you've ever met a toxic male figure, like, and I'm not talking, by the way, about like personality disorder stuff. Like I'm talking about just like a guy who just can't seem to get it right. It's probably because he has low testosterone. Because now they're estrogenic mostly, which makes them highly reactive. It's extremely stimulating, not in a good way. It's pumping a bunch of cortisol in. It's getting our prolactin levels up, which makes us even more moody and bitchy and miserable. And so the antidote, in my humble opinion, again, is very obvious: testosterone replacement therapy. And so again, we can talk about how testosterone replacement therapy increases lean muscle mass and improves brain fog and blah 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 blah. I love all those things. Like those are the cherries on top of what testosterone replacement therapy is actually doing, which is ultimately driving energy, the currency of life, at a cellular level, helping that foundational position of the pyramid, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, helping to fulfill that so we can now start really climbing those pyramid steps up to the top. That's why we give testosterone replacement therapy. Seriously, at the very, very bottom of it all is how much energy can we continue to produce to allow ourselves at a cellular level and then at a tissue level and beyond that as a whole organism to not only survive but truly thrive in practically just about any environment you can think of, because we see men all across the world in every inch of it, right? And so I think that is what testosterone replacement therapy is for. And I think it's a damn shame if we do not take a moment to consider how can we optimize testosterone replacement therapy more and more and more and more. How can we get more guys on this stuff? And so now we start having to have this conversation of, okay, so in my head, it was only for guys, above the age of 40. They've already had kids. They're feeling like total dog shit now. I mean, they've been feeling like crap for 20 years, but now they look awful. They're overweight. They've got fatty liver. They've probably got a little bit of prediabetes. They're totally unmotivated to do anything. Their libido's terrible, blah, 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 blah. Their wives complain about them. I don't want men anymore to have to wait until they get to that position for us as medical providers to say, you know what, maybe now's a good time to start testosterone replacement therapy. And I want to specify why. Okay. So first and foremost, does testosterone replacement therapy cause complete and utter permanent sterility? No, it does not. I want to clarify this, okay? This is a huge misnomer and frankly, kind of a double standard that we see. Testosterone replacement therapy is it's not the same, but I'm going to make a very broad comparison. It's like female birth control. Does female birth control cause complete and utter sterility permanently of the female? Of course not. I'm talking about hormonal birth control like oral contraceptives, okay? Oral hormonal birth controls. As an obvious example. If a female takes that, it completely shuts down their system, their hormones. They don't really produce any. So their body just practically completely shuts down. They don't ovulate, and so they can't get pregnant. If they stop taking birth control, does it go back to where they were? Yeah, basically. Now, there's a little more nuance there. And I talk about it in the master course because I'm not a big fan of birth control at all, especially the hormonal stuff. It's terrible for women. And I have a whole podcast about that, so you can listen to that one. But needless to say, if we overgeneralize here, yes, you stop birth control, you go right back to where you were, you start bleeding and you start having a cycle and blah, blah, blah. Everything's fine. Well, guess what? The same is true for testosterone replacement therapy. It is. We've done studies on this, guys. There's this idea that somehow testosterone replacement therapy, you start taking it, will it cause testicular atrophy? Yeah, absolutely. Does it shrink your testicles up? Of course it does. It's shutting down your brain and your testicle connection, right? The HPG axis. It does have a negative effect there. Now, again, is that a bad thing? No. In fact, in all the studies that we've ever looked at, when men are on testosterone replacement therapy, their all-cause mortality goes down, their risk of diabetes goes down, they don't have as much cardiovascular disease issues, blah, 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 blah. All the amazing things happen. So it's not a bad thing. Does it cause testicular atrophy and a decrease in semen production and spermatogenesis specifically? Does it stop spermatogenesis, the production of sperm? Yes, it does. Now, even to that effect, let me just clarify. It is not always zero. Like there are men who are on testosterone replacement therapy and have gotten women pregnant. Okay. So it's not birth control either. In fact, there are studies that have looked at, can we use testosterone replacement therapy as birth control? And the answer was like, you might not want to do that. It's not that effective. Nonetheless, while you are on testosterone replacement therapy, does it essentially cause a decrease in spermatogenesis and a what I would call very temporary sterility? Sure, but it is not permanent. When if you put a male on testosterone replacement therapy and he takes it for months, years, whatever, and then you tell that guy to stop taking testosterone, in the studies, the vast majority of men within 12 months have complete and total restoration of spermatogenesis and their own endogenous testosterone production. Yeah. So a lot longer of a period of time than women coming off of birth control. They're like back in shape in 3 to 6 months tops. By the way, some men within 3 to 6 months, they're in totally a good place too. There are some men that go even a little bit further, maybe getting closer to 18, 24 months. Nonetheless, it is not permanent in any way, shape, or form. Now, if a guy coming to you already, whether you know it or not, has issues with spermatogenesis, testosterone is not going to make it better, but it's not necessarily going to make it worse either. It's just going to be the same. So we have to stop. We have to stop coming up with this idea in our head that testosterone replacement therapy equals bad for young men in particular, or men of fertile age and trying to have kids. We have to, because it's not helpful. What we end up with is men in the prime of their lives who are miserable. They're those toxic men. They're reactive. They are lack of motivation, depressed. They're anxious. They're miserable to be in with a relationship. They're not really good fathers. And by the way, I was kind of one of those guys too. I'm not like disparaging these men. Like I really was. I feel like I was in that position, and I think my wife would tell you the same thing. Frankly, I wasn't a bad guy. I was just emotional and reactive all the time about everything because my testosterone was just so crap, and I just wanted to be a man. I wanted to be brave, and I wanted to be strong, and I wanted to be, protective of my family. I wanted to have that vision and purpose and drive to go out and do things, to be helpful. And man, oh man, when I started testosterone replacement therapy, my entire world changed. I have a whole episode on that. I think early on that I did. If you ever want to go back and listen to my own story, but I'll stop belaboring the point there. What I want you to know is that we have to stop putting testosterone replacement therapy in this weird box, which is like only for men over the age of 45 and up. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. And I've talked about how we shouldn't do that for women either, by the way. Like anybody who needs hormone replacement therapy should have hormone replacement therapy. I always use the analogy, I don't tell a diabetic coming to me who's in desperate need of insulin. I don't care if he's type 1 or type 2. I don't tell him like, well, we should really wait until you're 30 so that you can start insulin. Let me know when you start feeling worse. Like what? What are we talking about here? We just give insulin. We give it because why? Because we know based on the clinical literature that it is necessary, especially for a type 1 diabetic, right? Like they're not just going to magically start making insulin again. So why would we not use the most appropriate therapy possible in that given situation? That seems pretty obvious to me. And again, I see so many young men just get gaslit to death. There's this camp of people that also assume that all young men, they're just lazy pieces of shit. And they eat like garbage and they're playing their stupid video games and like, you just need to get some sunlight, touch grass, and eat better food. Believe me when I tell you, a lot of young men are doing that, or they have done that. They've tried that. They've tried the supplements. They've tried the diets. They've tried all of that stuff. I was one of those guys. I was a health nut. I've always been a health nut. And like, if you looked at me, you would have been like, okay, yeah, Nico's in relatively good shape. I mean, I wasn't overweight. I wasn't like, I didn't look gross, I got sick all the time though. I was tired and fatigued. I was sore every time I just could never get over the soreness of my muscles. extreme, like really, really bad. Like I couldn't really ever recover. And then I would, of course, get sick frequently. It was like I couldn't play catch up. And did that impact my mental health? Absolutely. And by the way, when you're sick all the time and sore all the time and you're trying your best and you're just like, everybody's telling you like, do all these things, that's what's going to help. And you're doing those things. And frankly, it's making things worse. It's kind of depressing. It'll make you anxious because you're like, what the hell is going on? And then it'll make you sad. And then when you're sad, you make really bad decisions. You kind of have this nihilistic view of like, well, screw it. I guess everything in life is kind of meaningless. And, I clearly I can't help myself. And this is just the cards I've been dealt. So you know what? I am going to go through the drive-thru today. Maybe I'll go through it twice. maybe I'll just say, forget it. That's a lot of times what we're ending up with is that guy. And again, I am not a fan of victimizing patients or people at all. I think that's one of the worst things you could do to anybody. I think everybody should pull themselves up by their bootstraps and as much as humanly possible. I do. I think that's really important. It makes us autonomous, right? And most of my guys are. I mean, they're still going to work. They're still trying to put in the effort with their relationships. They're still trying to work out, even though they know it's terrible and they slip up a lot. They've been there and they've done that. And I think a lot of times we continue to gaslight them like, well, you're 25 years old. You should have great testosterone. Just take some zinc and eat some vitamins and touch grass. Guys, that's not always the answer. Sometimes we're in a position where we can't pull ourselves up by our bootstraps anymore. There were things done in utero to that poor guy that has impacted his testicular function, his development of Leydig cells or lack thereof, and he cannot produce more testosterone. And because he cannot do that, he is in a position where physically and mentally and emotionally and even spiritually, he's going to kind of be stuck a lot of the times. And so if we understand that, we should understand that, hey, maybe, and I'm not saying we shouldn't encourage diet and lifestyle and all that. That is foundational. That's like literally, that is foundational. Like you have to do all those things. You should be doing all those things anyways. But don't just assume that every single guy, they just bullshit their way through life and they just want to take the easy route and get testosterone and move on. That's not true. There really isn't. Most of the guys out there have really tried. They're giving it their all. And they talk to these very uneducated, unfortunately, I'm not calling them stupid. I'm just saying literally, they're not educated on hormone replacement therapy, medical providers out there in the community. And then a lot of times they might even find their way into one of our clinics and we're still kind of doing the same thing. Well, you're 25. You really don't need TRT. And we don't want to have you stop making kids. This is crazy, guys. It's crazy. In the HRT master course, I literally show you how to get a young guy on TRT. And if they want to have kids, we use HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Easy peasy. Seriously, it's that simple. It's not complicated at all. It's very, very, very simple to do. They don't even have to start HCG right away. I mean, let's just say they're like 20 years old, they're not planning on having kids for another 5-10 years. No problem. No problem. We'll start you on some TRT. And if and when that day comes, hopefully it does, that you get married and you want to start having kids and raise a family, amazing. We'll start some HCG. And believe it or not, you're going to get your wife pregnant and everything's going to be hunky-dory. I've done it 100 times. So have many other providers. It's not complicated. It's really that straightforward. Now, of course, we give informed consent. We tell men about risks and benefits and all that stuff. I'm not saying we don't have to do that. But I just want you to understand that this should not be this huge issue or dilemma. It's really not. And I think seriously, if we gave men testosterone replacement therapy because they need it, medically speaking, they require that, I think what we would see is a 180 in so much of our communities, in our towns and cities and in the world. I really mean that. I think globally we would see a really incredible change if even just a small percentage, like single digit of men, had access to testosterone replacement therapy. They were not gaslighted to death. Young men of all ages, but especially young men who need that help. And then maybe they've been self-medicating, maybe they haven't been, maybe they've been medicated to death by big pharma and big medicine. And now they're coming to you. I want you to have the confidence and the capacity and even the compassion to step in and help this poor human being become everything he's ever wanted to be. Because testosterone can and will do that for men. It does. I've never met a guy on testosterone replacement therapy who hasn't had a significant improvement globally in their mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. I love that. And we see the same thing in females too, by the way, with HRT. So I hope that you understand the dilemma we're in, which is nobody's doing this. No one's talking about it. I never hear people talk about this. And so I'm going to start talking about it because I want people to understand that this is a moment in time in which we can change, we can create a movement, a paradigm shift for men in our communities, and that is going to have that beautiful ripple effect that, frankly, none of us could ever understand or imagine the impact that's going to have. And we are the people who are going to do that. I encourage you to be that person. And if you just don't feel confident in doing that, or you feel nervous about that, that's okay. I get it. We've all been there. Believe me. I mean, I have these really strong convictions, but there was a moment in time when I remember seeing these 25-year-old guys, 20-year-old guys who are just in a really bad shape. And we tried all kinds of things and we just couldn't seem to get better. And I had to come to the realization that, damn, I better learn this stuff. I better figure this out. And so what I want you to know is I figured it out. Not just me. I mean, many of us have. And I've learned, and I want to help you learn. And I want to make it really easy, really simple, very practical. But I want you to understand the deeper why, because that's going to help build that confidence and competence to do the right thing for the right people. Okay. So get out there and go help these young men be better. Give them some TRT. Help them understand this is not going to cause their testicles to fall off. This is something that many young men can and should be doing to support their health and wellness. And you're going to be that person to guide them. And you're going to do it in a safe and effective manner because you've taken HRT University. And you know the ins and outs of testosterone replacement therapy. You know the ins and outs of HCG. Shoot, you know beyond that. I mean, if we need to add FSH in, we can do all kinds of fun stuff, guys. We really can. Not hard, not rocket science here. Seriously. Okay. Everybody's going to ask me this question. Nico, do you need to do like a, semen analysis on these guys like before starting testosterone replacement therapy? No, you don't need to do that. We don't do a egg count on every chick we start on hormonal birth control. I'm just being honest. No, you don't have to do that. That's crazy. Okay. Testosterone replacement therapy in the literature is very clear that it does not cause permanent sterility. It just doesn't. No more than hormonal birth control does in females. Okay. You do not need to do that. If you want to, you can. That's fine. But I think that's just another like additional thing that someone has to pay for and do for what reason other than like, I don't know, like if we somehow just feel like we mentally think that makes things better or safer. I don't know. If a guy comes to you and they have already discussed that they have infertility issues, like they have problems, okay, that's a different story. I'm not talking about that person, but I just want you to know that is not a requirement at all. Like at all. I mean, again, and I'm preaching from the choir. I used to think like maybe that would be a good idea for my young guys. And I had a few of my young guys do that. And the more I read about it and learned about it and thought about it and realized like, this is crazy. Like we don't need to do that. It's totally ridiculously overkill and expensive and time consuming. And we can help these young guys. You don't have to do that. So All right. I'm going to stop there. I hope that was really helpful, guys. I hope that was exciting and interesting. I've written about this. I'm going to talk about this probably even more and more and more. I'm going to make this like a mission. Like I have a lot of these little mini missions that I'm trying to do. This is a big one for me. So, and I want you to preach to the choir too about this stuff. I think it's important. So if you're not already on my Nico's Daily email, please join us. It's an amazing place to hang out. I write an email Monday through Friday. No chat GPT, just me. Tons of value, tons of education. It's all for free. It's my way of giving back, okay? It's totally free. You'll learn a lot of great things there. You can go under the link below and sign in and join. It's totally free. We have our amazing hrtuniversity.com where you can find everything you want to know about the master course, which is the most amazing hormone replacement therapy course out there. A to Z, left to right, top to bottom, it covers it all, men and women alike. It's a one-stop shop. It's great. We've got our community in there. It's incredible. We've got all kinds of great content pieces if you join our monthly membership so that you can be a part of a growing community and movement like I've talked about. We've got amazing assets like Pearl, our AI mentor, who's just incredible. I want you to check all these things out. Go to hrtuniversity.com. Also, don't forget, we have a free Facebook group. If you want to just dip your toes in a little bit and check that out, meet some amazing people, head in there. Links are all below. Guys, thank you very much. I'm off to take the family camping for the weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you at the next episode.